Welcome to another episode of The Butler Did It. I'm your host, Adam Butler, back with another episode. And as you can see, I'm not rolling solo dolo today. I am joined by the Butlers. The Butlers are in the building. This is my beautiful wife, partner in crime, baby mother, all of that, Mrs. Jen Butler. Hello, Jen.
Hey, Mr. Butler.
Hey, lady. This is my sunshine, my world, my light, Mrs. August Butler. Miss August Butler, not Mrs., but Miss August Butler. August Lee Butler, who's in the building. She's joining us today. And she's going to be a little co-host for us today, man. So, listen, we are parents. Okay, I've been talking about this since I relaunched. All right. Bear with us. Okay, we going to be doing our thing.
We've been parents, but now we're parents to a newbie.
Well, everybody know we've been parents. Okay. And by the way, shouts out to Kai who's not here today. He's in his room chilling, but he don't want to be
not in the frame.
Yeah, he don't want to be on the podcast. Yeah, everybody know we parents, but
she said you guys are not working. How dare you try to record without me?
This one was determined to be on the podcast. The other one is determined to play Nintendo Switch and watch whatever on his spring break. So he's not part of the show. Here's something. We've been playing the show for a while. We actually recorded a version of the show. I talked to you guys about that last week. I really wish either way, I recorded a version of this show. It was super long. It was like 2 hours, an hour and a half, something like that. We couldn't even upload. It was crazy. But either way, I'm only saying that to say we've been playing the show for a while. I've been talking about the show for a while. But here's something I didn't know. I didn't know that we were coming off Black Maternal Health Week.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Now, it's not, we're coming off of it. The last day was actually the 17th. It was between the 11th and the 17th. I did not know that. But it's funny how God works, because
God makes no mistakes.
None at all. None at all. Because that's the subject of today's show. We're going to be talking about our post-pregnancy journey. This is Jen's story. This is something that we thought was super important to talk about, and my hope is that not only the black women that listen to this show and watch this show and support this show will get something from my beautiful wife and her story, but the black men that are going to enter this journey or are part of this journey, I hope you learn something from this story as well. So when we come back, we're going to talk about Jen's story, and we're going to get to
our story.
Yes, our story. We'll be right back. All right, so you all know the story from my end. I've told you all, the journey and how I felt during pregnancy. And I kept saying that Jen had her, she corrected me earlier. We laughed about that off mic, but she corrected me earlier because it is our story. But the reason why I keep saying your story, baby, is because this part of it is something that I don't feel like I would have done justice telling it, because it's your experience, you know what I mean? And it's very specific to a black woman. Ooh. Very specific to a black woman. So let's talk about, do we want to start from when we were in the hospital, or do we want to start from when we came home?
When we were in the hospital.
Okay, so let's talk about August came flying out. August came flying out, sliding out like a G. Okay, full head of hair and toenails and fingernails tripping me out. We're in the what would you call the room? The what is it? The
postpartum room.
But yeah, the postpartum room. Getting ourselves together. The nurse comes to you. She says that
I'm actually in the bathroom. She's just, God bless this woman and all of nurses and just, anyone who works in the medical field, because ladies, you've been there literally helping me change and do all the things that you do in the restroom after having a baby, and which is so gracious and kind and patient and just wonderful. But it's like 2:00 in the morning. Again, amid changing and using the laboratories. She says, "Oh, we're gonna end up keeping you, because at this point we're just just chatting or whatever, passing the time, right?" And she says, "We're actually gonna keep you guys an extra day, an extra night, which we expected anyway. You know, it was like, you know, hopeful optimism that we would go home after only 1 day instead of 2, but we were totally prepared to stay 2 nights. So I said, okay, no problem. So then she proceeds to say, oh yeah, because, you know, they found that you have postpartum preeclampsia. I literally looked at this lady, y'all, and like dead in her eyes and said, no, I don't. Just like that. And was just like almost dismissive, like, girl, let's just get out of this bathroom, because what are we talking about here? She was like, nope, you know what? Your doctor will talk to you about it tomorrow. I didn't think about it again. So fast forward to the next day, the doctor comes into the room and starts explaining how I was diagnosed, or how I am now diagnosed with postpartum preeclampsia.
And and just to be clear, they said postpartum preeclampsia, preeclampsia, but they said non-threatening, right?
Yes. Yes. No severe, non-severe, non-threatening. Yes. So I immediately was, you know, extremely confused. I've heard of preeclampsia, of course, right? But postpartum preeclampsia, I've had the baby. The baby is in my arms, in the hospital bed as the doctor's talking to me. I'm very confused. So the doctor proceeds to talk about how, you know, women who are impacted by preeclampsia, it's because of the placenta. There's still so much they don't know about it and really, you know, completely and fully understand. But what they have now found is that women also, and I'm sorry, let me backtrack really quick. The cure to it is having the baby, because the placenta leaves your body, as we all know. But for whatever reason, in some cases, remnants or whatever with the placenta that is maybe lingering, or after effects, whatever the case may be, it causes preeclampsia postpartum. They say it's something like 5% of women in this area who were impacted by it. How did we get so lucky to be a part of that 5%? Yeah. Of course, it's the majority is women of color. Yeah. They said even what was crazy, that it was a spike, or they seen more cases since COVID.
Yeah, during the pandemic.
Like, which super side eye.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense to me, but we can get to that a little bit later. I've been thinking about that a lot, and I think I understand why, but we can get to that later. So you were diagnosed with preeclampsia, non-threatening as they described it at the time. You know, nothing to worry about from what we understood.
From what we were being told, they were saying, you know, oh, but you're doing great. Your numbers are great. Mind, they're saying numbers referring to my blood pressure. I had never been a person who really paid blood pressure much of mine. I mean, if I can be completely honest, you know, anytime you go to the doctors, they check your blood pressure. Right. I always had a good report there, so it wasn't anything that I really gave a whole lot of thought to. So
and during your pregnancy, just during the pregnancy, your blood pressure was completely fine.
Yeah.
And afterwards, when they diagnosed you with preeclampsia, your numbers were fine.
While in the hospital.
In the hospital.
Yes, exactly. It did spike quite a bit during labor because my epidural wore off and the anesthesiologist wasn't able to get back right away. And so I was in about 2 hours of natural labor. Fun.
Yeah. Which was, just as a sidebar, one of the most frightening things I'd ever seen. Honestly, like, you know, watching.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, and this is why I always say, like, this is your experience, you know what I mean? Because, like, I'm sitting there looking at it going, oh my God, my wife is shaking his head. But you're feeling it. You're dealing with it. You know what I mean? That's the crazy part about it. But I just wanted to put that part.
And God bless the women who do it, you know, complete. I mean, literally, God bless you. Like, you are the realest MVP. But I was under Pitocin, so my contractions were like insane, and I was doing it again without an epidural, and it was just outrageous pain. Say all that to say, of course, that made my blood pressure spike, which led them to test, which led to the diagnosis. Later on. So again, back to the hospital room. I am essentially kind of glazing over as the doctor's talking because I don't understand it. And then on the other hand, it's still very positive. Oh, but you're fine. You know, everything looks great. This is what you need to do. When you go home, get a blood pressure cuff, check your blood pressure twice a day, and look out for different symptoms. I immediately was frustrated because I'm going home with a new baby. We have our son at home. Just I haven't, look, my plate runneth over as it is. You telling me to go home, check my blood pressure twice a day, write it down, keep it documented, look out for symptoms. Look, I have bad anxiety. If you tell me to look out for symptoms, by the time we leave this hospital, I will have had 3 of them. Like, that's the way my anxiety works.
Yeah. But let me ask you, okay, so I'm sorry. She going in. Let me ask you though. So when they told you that you had preeclampsia, but they, obviously I was there. I remember the doctor comes in and everything looks good though, but we do want you to check your blood pressure twice. Was it something that was it on the top of your mind? I know you were kind of just expressing that, but was that on the top of your mind? Like, let me make sure I check my blood pressure. Let me worry about preeclampsia. Was that something that was on the top of your mind?
Not even close. Mm-hmm. And this is what made it worse. Mm-hmm. On the way home, they gave me a couple other prescriptions as well. So on the way home, we already had to go to CVS. Mm-hmm. I picked up the first blood pressure cuff that I saw off the shelf. By the time we came home, it said in the instruction manual, if you have preeclampsia, don't use this cuff.
Right.
I said, you know what? This is a sign that I need to just put this in the back of my mind. The doctor said I was fine. I need to get, I have enough to do with our newborn, with our son, with just acclimating to our new normal of 4, our new household of 4.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I did not take it seriously. But what made it worse is that I didn't understand it enough to take it seriously.
That's what I was going to say. That's
the problem.
That was going to be my next comment, that I don't think any of us was taking, our my mother-in-law was here, and none of us was like, make sure you check your blood pressure, this and that.
No.
I think we all were kind of like, listen, you need to make sure you're good mentally and physically.
Right.
I think she was very much concerned about us getting rest. I was very much concerned about
making sure I'm eating.
Mm-hmm. I was very much concerned about, let me make sure I'm helping. Let me make sure I personally wasn't thinking about the blood pressure.
No.
I don't think she was either.
No.
And so none of us were really stressing, check your blood pressure, make sure we don't want that thing, because we didn't understand, as you said.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And not saying that the doctor was not great, because all of the staff were wonderful.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like, for real.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like that urgency was there. I feel like, if anything, we got kind of like passing, we were, it was like, oh, but you're looking, here's your diagnosis, but you're looking great. Everything's great. Look out for these symptoms, check your blood pressure, but, go enjoy that baby and, bye-bye for now, or forever, whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like if the conversation was, this is very serious. Mm-hmm. We are very encouraged by the way that your numbers are looking right now. Mm-hmm. This impacts your blood pressure in a very real way, mm-hmm. in a way that you can either have a stroke, seizures, or worse. And so it's imperative that if your numbers reach a certain amount, or those symptoms, while we don't want you to, kind of spiral into anxiety, manifesting symptoms that aren't there. But while you have to pay attention to all of these things, because it is very serious.
Yeah.
A stroke, seizures, or worse.
Right. So we weren't, I won't say we weren't taking it, we weren't taking it serious, but it was out of ignorance and out of, we just didn't know. It was something that was new. Something that's new and everything. And you felt great, right?
I felt as good as is to be expected. Mm-hmm. What was it, 4 days postpartum? Mm-hmm, of course, mm-hmm. I'm swollen. Of course, my head hurts. Of course, I'm tired. Mm-hmm. I felt like I just pushed out a 8-pound, 10-ounce, 21-inch baby. That's how I felt, Yeah. So, and anyone who knows me knows I like to go. And so, I felt how I felt, but it wasn't anything that I was alarmed about, anything. And again, this is someone who has very bad anxiety. If I thought something was wrong, I would say, babe, something isn't right. We gotta go talk to someone.
Yeah.
So what I will say was, and I don't say this with I mean this with all seriousness, we received a life-saving call.
Well, hold on, because I think it's important to say that you mentioned the cuff. The cuff said don't use it if there's which was a weird thing to say anyway, which also caused us to be like, man, we got this janky cuff, man. We're not even right.
Yeah. So you're reminding me, babe. Mm-hmm. So if I can be completely honest again, the mere thought of me having to check my blood pressure twice a day was something that, number one, I just didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. I was ignorant to the seriousness of, blood pressure and like your numbers, and because they always say blood pressure is a silent killer, but so is a condition that you've never heard of before that quite literally impacts your blood pressure. I felt like, again, with my anxiety, I felt like, so wait a minute, now I have to, monitor my pressure and write it down and look out for it. If I can be honest, I was overwhelmed, and because they told me that I was fine, I took their word for it.
Yeah, and I imagine it probably felt like just one of those things, and we've all been to the doctors before, where you come home and you make sure you eat this, make sure you do that, make sure you get drink things, and you do some of it, you don't do some of it. I think the blood pressure cuff, and you correct me if I'm wrong, felt like it was an extra precaution that we just needed that they were asking us to do, but it didn't feel like a super important thing to do. It felt like it was more important for you to worry about some of the other battle scars you came home with from just having a baby. Okay, so then we get this phone call. Go for it.
So this is, like I said, I think it was 3 or 4 days postpartum.
Yes.
Again, days after we got home, like literal days, not a long time at all. We were actually taking her to her first pediatrician appointment. So I think it was 3 days.
Yeah, it was about 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. To her first checkup. And I got that life-saving call. I actually missed the call. It was a voicemail. It was one of the nurses from the hospital doing a routine follow-up. And her call said, we're checking in on your numbers. We have to make sure, check in with you, make sure everything's okay. We know that we told you to, monitor and track your numbers every day. So we want to know how you've been doing for the past few days. It's really important that you call us back today. If you have, and then they gave me numbers that if your pressure is over this amount, then you need to come into to the hospital right away. But if not, just call us back. P.S. call us back. So I immediately am frustrated and a little overwhelmed. But, I like to be a good student. So I said, you know what I'm going to do is, while we're here at the pediatrician, this was, she's been our pediatrician for years. She's Makai's pediatrician. She's wonderful. I said, I'm just going to ask her to take my pressure at the baby's appointment, and everything's going to be fine. I'm going to call in. I'm going to give them my numbers. And this is the last time I have to talk to these folks about something that I still don't understand what we're talking about.
And we were more concerned about, hey, making sure everything's okay with August, not finding out. No, we had this thing going on where, like, she doesn't have jaundice, but we were, there were some jaundice checks we needed to do. So we just needed, it was, again, the blood pressure thing, even from my perspective, was not a big deal. I was glad that we got that call, and I was glad that we were headed to the pediatrician, and I thought that Jen had a good idea in getting her blood pressure checked. We thought it would just be routine. So we get to the doctors.
I thank God for that call. I mean that. So we get to the doctor. She takes my pressure. One of the nurses took my pressure. The look on this girl's face when she saw the numbers, for my, just for my own comfort, I'm not going to share what my numbers were, but they were higher than they ever should, anyone should be. They were just unbelievably high. And the poor girl, the look on her face, and she was like, I'm about to go get another cuff. She took my pressure again with another cuff. The number it actually wasn't as high, but it still was higher than it ever needed to be. So at this point, Adam and I are both kind of just like,
state of shock.
Like, whoa, wait, what? Huh? So we actually had to go pick, because it was like close to time for Kai to get picked up from school. We left the doctor's appointment, went to go pick up Kai from school. I was like, I'm just going to call him when we're headed home.
And we had just put our mother-in-law on a plane.
Yes. So my aunt mom literally just got back on the plane to go back home. So she stayed with us, for a week to help us with the baby. Amazing. But she literally just was getting on the plane to go back to Atlanta. So I call. I'm in the car. I call. I don't know what I thought they were going to say, like what they were going to tell us to do. I just knew it couldn't be that bad. I was like, you know what? We're going to be fine. Maybe they're going to tell me to, I don't know, go home and take a nap or something. I don't know. That woman said, Miss Butler, you have to come into the hospital immediately. I said, I'm sorry. She said, you have to come in immediately, right away. Come straight in. You have to come back up to labor and delivery. Just come straight up. You need to come now. I immediately start crying. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, I have my son is in the back seat. Our daughter's in the back seat. What are we supposed to do? She said, Miss Butler, you have to find childcare for your son. You can bring your infant because you'll be in labor and delivery, and you can bring your husband. But because of the RSV, situation in DC, kids weren't allowed in labor and delivery. Kai couldn't even come to the hospital when she was born. Yeah. So she was like, I mean, this is, mind you, this woman is this is what she's instructing me to do. You have to find childcare for your son. You have to come to the hospital immediately. I'm hysterical. So we go to the hospital. We get to the hospital. My pressure, they hooked up. We're in the triage and stuff, getting ready to go in. Or we're in, but getting things going. My pressure's even higher.
Yeah.
All I know is I couldn't stop crying. I was horrified. I didn't know what anything meant. Doctors were coming in trying to explain things. I couldn't. It was like, how am I back here?
Yeah.
Like, we just left labor and delivery. Anybody who's had a baby, they wheel you out. All the nurses are like in the hallway waving, oh, congratulations, good luck. It's all happy, 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 happy. I'm sitting back here. I don't have a baby. My baby's over there in the chair with my husband. Yeah. I'm sitting in the triage like, what am I doing here? And I feel fine. All these symptoms y'all told me to ask, to look out for, I don't have any of these symptoms. I feel fine. Ain't that right? Mommy felt fine. It was crazy. They then proceed to tell us that we will be there for the next couple of days.
Yeah.
And I have to get treatment to make sure that I don't have a seizure, a stroke, or worse.
Yeah. They brought you in. They tried on a couple of things, as you said. The blood pressure didn't go down because I felt like there was a small window, the tiniest window.
So small. They didn't play around. They were like, we're going to try this one thing. If it doesn't bring your pressure down, sis, you can't go.
Right. And I remember it being, we'll try this. If this doesn't go down, if this thing doesn't bring the blood pressure down, then you are staying. We're doing magnesium, which is what they ended up putting you on, and you all are here. And you're right, baby. It was weird because we kind of went through the same steps we did while giving birth, right? We were in the triage. And then come from the triage, we went to the big room, literally where we gave labor.
The labor and delivery room.
Yeah, the labor and delivery room. Not this. It wasn't our exact same room we were in when August was born, but still.
Doors down.
Might as well have been. And then from there, we went into the post-op room again. It just postpartum room, excuse me, again. So it was just interesting. So we're there. The first step did not work. They're offering the magnesium.
No, not offering. It was.
Well, no, I mean offering that they're giving the magnesium.
Yeah.
So you're in there, like, what's going through your mind when they're telling you, okay, we need to do magnesium, we have to stay here? What's your feeling?
my first thought is like magnesium, like from the periodic table. Like what? Like what are y'all?
Bruh.
I'm just saying, like, what are you saying? They're and they're explaining
for the periodic. Anyway, go on. Yes.
And they're explaining. You know, you have to. I have to literally laugh to keep from crying. Literally. Ain't that yes? These lights.
Yes. She hear mommy and daddy talking.
Right. So when they're explaining about going on the magnesium, oh, by the way, you can't get out of the bed for 24 hours. Oh, by the way, after that 24 hours, you have to stay here until. And I am, as my husband will tell anyone, and I will tell anyone, I am type A. I like to be in control of things. I like to know what's going on. So I'm like, so I can go home after this magnesium thing, whatever this is. I can go home after that.
Yeah.
No, Miss Butler. We have to make sure you're okay.
Yeah, I think with you, that is true, that you wanted to know, and that's why I asked you how you felt, because you wanted to know that this was going to work. Okay, I have to do magnesium, but this is okay. So this is going to bring my pressure down, right? This is going. How long will I be in here? And a lot of it was, as many of you who've been in the hospital, and I asked this question. Obviously, I know the answer already, right? But I asked this for the people that are listening, for the people that like magnesium. What was, you know what I mean? Like, the thing that was scariest about it, I'm sure for her and for myself, was the unknown. All of this is such an unknown. We had no idea that we would be in this situation. Then we thinking, okay, it's like step by step. Oh, we got to go back to the oh, the blood pressure's high. Damn. Oh, we got to go back to the hospital. Damn. Oh, you got to stay. Damn. Well, how long we got to stay?
Yep. And all I kept asking was, for one, we had to explain to Kai that we had to come back to the hospital again. He was upset.
Oh, yeah.
Because, again, he couldn't come to the hospital to meet his baby sister. We were there for a couple of days. He was like, well, what do you mean you have to go back again?
Scared for his mommy.
Scared for me, not understanding. I'm freaking out. So to ask how I felt, horrified. I have my infant, again, who's sitting in the chair across from me, across from the gurney thing I was on. I'm all hooked up. I'm like, so for the next 24 hours, I'm going to be like, restricted to the bed. They said I can still breastfeed, but can't do anything else. Couldn't even eat. Yeah. And I've never even been in aside from having Makai in August, I've never been in the hospital for anything. So this was all, I've never been, it was like an out of body, completely surreal. How in the world did we get here? Why? Why me? Why this? Why us? What is happening? It was horrifying.
So before we move on from the hospital experience, let's just talk about what the magnesium is, and from your knowledge, what it does, because it was explained to us that it does it was why it was helpful.
So the purpose of the magnesium is that first and foremost, with the the postpartum preeclampsia, because it elevates your blood pressure so quickly. And again, it's not like someone who has just regular high blood pressure. That's again something that blows my mind. This is not like regular high blood pressure. It has nothing to do with food. It has nothing to do with like your diet or your weight or your any kind of lifestyle habits. This is nothing that I could have done. There's nothing that I could have eaten differently. It's literally something so unique. And the further you get out from delivery, the better you get. And then one day it just goes away. Insane. And so because of that, essentially, your body is going through a very drastic change very, very quickly.
Right.
Because some people with high blood pressure can live with high blood pressure for a long time before even realizing they have high blood pressure. This is very, very different than that. Completely different. Actually, not even in the same ballpark. It's something very different. And so because of that, it puts your body into a state of shock. And so you can go, again, you can have a really bad seizure that can lead to what's even worse, or you can surpass a seizure and just have a stroke, or it could just lead to worse altogether. And there are a lot of black women who die from this. They're walking around thinking, oh, I just had a headache. I have a headache that won't go away. I just had a baby. Oh, I'm swollen still, but it's okay. I just had a baby. Or, oh my gosh, I'm achy, but you know what? It's understandable. I just had a baby. Not knowing what postpartum preeclampsia is. I literally have friends who work in the medical field who said, girl, I had to Google it. All my friends and loved ones said, I had to Google it. Oh, by the way, I had to Google it. I was like, what is this? Postpartum preeclampsia? What is this?
No, 100%. And I think that's the scariest thing about it. Thankfully, the magnesium did work by bringing your blood pressure down.
So it stops a seizure. I think I went off a tangent without answering it. The purpose of the magnesium is to make sure that you don't have a seizure. And essentially, it's supposed to be the treatment you need to regulate your blood pressure. Mind you, it does not mean your blood pressure is not still higher than it ever should be. But what it means is it gets it to a place where now they can switch over to a medicine that they need to now monitor and make sure that the medicine can control it.
Right. So you're off the magnesium at this point. The 24 hours has passed, which is a good thing. We're in the smaller hospital room. Now it's just the medicine. The blood pressure is decent numbers, but still whatever, but decent. And we're cleared to go home. You're cleared to go home.
After another day.
Yeah, right. Yeah. After another day,
yeah.
Right. After another day, you're cleared to go home. But now you're home.
Yeah.
Now you're not in the hospital room. Now you're not under supervision of nurses all the time and this, that, and another. Yeah. It's you and the medicine. What was the routine for the medicine? What was the instructions that you were given when you were told to go home?
So the medicine was once a day, but I had to check my pressure twice. So basically what they told us at discharge, I had to check my pressure twice a day and track it. But luckily the blood pressure cuff that I ended up getting this time was it's like the cuff of champions, and it stores everything electronically. So, but yeah, that's what that was the instructions upon going home. Little did I know that coming home would not make me feel better.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. So, during this journey of being home, having to take the medicine, especially in the beginning, what worried you most? Why were you concerned when you got home with the medicine and with the checking your blood pressure twice?
I'll say that, and this is for anyone who's dealt with this. I happen to have, again, I have anxiety, so it was very traumatic for me. But I feel like anyone who even doesn't deal with anxiety, it's so traumatic because you're blind. I felt like I was blindsided. I felt like, someone telling you that you have something that you could have, that could have taken you out without you feeling anything or knowing anything. So the problem for me was having to check the pressure and with the medicine. My fear was, how do I know I'm still not going to have a seizure any moment? How do I know I'm still not going to have a stroke any moment? Because my pressure was still high. It wasn't what it was before because the medicine, was keeping it from being outrageous, or so we thought. So essentially I had to make sure that it didn't get uncontrollable again, to not have to come back to the emergency room again, because they sent stipulations. If they go over certain numbers, you have to come back to the emergency room immediately. So essentially, I'm on watch for these numbers that are going to be so crazy to send me back to the hospital. Or now symptoms, I'm looking out for these same symptoms. But with my anxiety, it only made it everything was a symptom. Me looking, me having to check my pressure. Anyone who does have to deal with checking pressure for whatever reason, why you might have to check your blood pressure, you know that the more anxious you are and nervous you are, that makes your numbers higher.
Right.
So it's just like a never ending loop of what's gonna happen next. And I spiraled.
So to be clear, the biggest fight has not necessarily been. Well, no, let me. So to be clear, the biggest challenge for you has been the worry, the anxiety, as you mentioned.
Yes.
The piece about what if, because this is something that blindsided you before.
Yep. If I felt perfectly fine before, what makes this any different?
And that's why I think, again, why, and I'll be honest with you, I was actually nervous to ask you initially. I don't know why. I know you're going to go, why, but I don't have an answer why. But I was nervous initially to ask you to come on here because I knew I really wanted to talk about this on the show because of just from my perspective of just being shocked about it and knowing how shocked you were about it. But also, I think had we just gone to the hospital, baby, and then like they just were like, you're cured, you can go home, I think we would have just been like, man, that was crazy. Glad we got through that. It was the after, it was the coming home, it was the seeing you, understanding how nervous you were, how shell-shocked and blindsided you were about a thing, and the anticipation of it possibly happening again that made me want to go, I feel like, I wonder if you're the only woman. You can't be the only woman that feels like this. You can't be the only woman that's been like, now I'm kind of just left on the island of like, what happens next? Yep. Now, to be clear, because I think there's another reason why we want to talk about this is because it's a positive story, right? Look at us, right? You are healthy. I don't mean to bury the lead, but you are healthy. You are doing well. We had a great doctor's appointment yesterday. You know what I mean?
Our 6 week was great.
Yeah, positive news.
Yeah.
But the mystery of it all made those weeks in between yesterday and from when we went to the hospital very difficult for you.
Unbelievably difficult. And I say this whether you have anxiety or not. And I didn't have, I love my tribe, my village. They are everything. Not one person in my tribe and village has ever had this before. Yeah. Like I said, people were Googling it like, what is this?
Yeah.
I didn't have anyone to talk to about what this is and what it just, I was walking around for weeks in a fog. In a fog. Mind you, I'm still, we have an 8-year-old who just turned 9-year-old in school. We have our infant. I have, my a husband. I have, one monkey don't stop no show. So I still had, life was still lifing. But I was in a fog lifing. I was so scared every day about something else happening, being blindsided again. And I have to be here. That's all I kept thinking. I have to be here. I have a family. Like, they need me. I need them. I have to be here. I can't go out like this. Yeah. And I was, and as a product of my anxiety, I was too hyper focused on it. Instead of just living and just kind of taking it in stride and taking my pressure, going on about the day, I was dwelling. I was, oh my gosh, I look a little extra swollen today, or the swelling isn't going down, or I have a headache. Is this lingering, or wait a minute, my numbers getting kind of close to the number they warned me about. It's just like every day I was doing that, and I was not in a good space at all.
So last two questions I want to ask you. How did you begin to get out of that funk? How did you begin to turn around? We know it's still a journey, we got great news yesterday, you know, but I know it's still a journey, you know. But how did you begin to get out of the fog and turn the corner?
First and foremost, prayer. I mean that because it definitely does help with personally. It helps with my anxiety. It just helps me to recenter myself and just know that, you know, this battle is not mine, and I cannot focus and dwell on the worst thing that can happen because I'm missing out on what's happening right in front of me. And so that prayer just kind of gets me, like, I know that God got us. I know God got us. And I have to, you know, pull myself out of the spiral. But babe, you are the other part. Let me tell you something about this man. Oh, this man.
She gonna make me turn beet red on this and blush now.
Little burgundy.
Yeah, little burgundy.
Burgundy and gold.
God.
I love you.
I love you too, baby. I love you too.
So, baby, it was you know, he lives with me. He sees my anxiety on an everyday basis without this. Again, y'all, my plate is full enough, like, before all this. So, like, I think, you know, he could see that, like, I know she's worried about this. I know this is, like, really, it was so traumatic. I was traumatized. I was triggered. What's another T word I could say? I was ticked off. I was just in a constant state of angst. This man told me, let me tell you something. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. I don't care what I got to do. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. You are going to be fine. I'm going to take care of you. You stop worrying. I'm going to take care of you. And I know that might not seem, I don't know what that might seem to whoever's listening, but for me, it's the affirmations. For me, it is. No, it's just that support. It is because I know my husband got me. Like, I know that I trust what he's saying, and the level of comfort and ease that brought me was invaluable. And babe, that is the other part that was like, you know what? He's right.
Yeah.
He's right. He does got me. I don't have to worry. Like, you know what? And I pity the fool that doesn't have somebody in that corner like this. Cause I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Oh, baby. Nah, but I mean, I meant what I said. And also I want to shout out my brother-in-law too, man. He, you know, we getting deep, but he definitely was a major help through this. I think.
Oh yeah. My brother is like amazing with this as well. Yeah.
Shouts out to Mike, man. So here we are. Beautiful family. We're going to continue to monitor health and do all those things. I think it was just a good wake up call to just monitor health, like period. You know what I mean? That can go for black men, women, whoever. Just, you know, monitor your health. But what do you want black women to know? Especially women. There's women out there that are pregnant right now.
Yes.
They go through their journey. They may be listening.
Yes.
They may be thinking about getting pregnant. Whatever. What do you want black women to know about your journey?
I definitely wish there were more campaigns, brochures, you know, just informational, you know, sessions, whatever. I just wish there was more talk. There were more conversations and discussions surrounding postpartum preeclampsia. I feel like I've known about preeclampsia for again, this is my second baby. I've known about preeclampsia, but to know that there's a whole other side of it that impacts, you know, 5% of women in this area is nothing to scoff at. Why is it that this is my first time hearing about it? I want for black women with the highest mortality rate after having children, I want them to know every possible thing. I want them to know if they get a bad hangnail, what the side effects are. I want them to know if their knee hurts for too long, you know, what the side effects are. I want black women to be armed with the knowledge and the resources to combat anything that comes their way on a regular day, and most especially after they give birth. I think that it's too important. It's entirely too important to make sure that our queens remain here on this earth to take care of their babies once they have them. and especially, not feel completely unprepared for a diagnosis of of something after having a baby, having never even known that it even existed or was even possible. That's what I want for Black women. I want Black women to live and thrive after childbirth.
And there it is. Baby, thank you for doing this. Really appreciate you.
And I made it through without crying.
Yes, you did. Yes. No. And I love you. And yeah, man, I'm just happy you did this. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you too. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So that's our episode of The Butler Did It. Thank you all for constantly supporting this show. Thank you all for being patient with me. Y'all know how it is, man. I got some interviews lined up, so this won't be. I like doing the solo dolo thing. I love it. I'm gonna keep doing those things. I got a lot of things to talk about, but I got a couple of cool interviews lined up, man. I'm gonna keep stacking up the interviews. Maybe, and I shouldn't do this, but I'm gonna do it because I'm stupid like that. Maybe, just maybe, I'll get to the point where I start putting out 2 episodes a week. I don't know. I don't know. See, and I want to, but I gotta, so it gets busy.
Don't use that. What you will never do. August.
Hey, listen, it gets busy.
Tell him he could never.
But I do appreciate you all, and I'm going to try that out. But in the meantime, what you can do is you go on Up On Game, search Up On Game Network on YouTube, and, of course, on all podcasts and platforms to check out my sneaker podcast, the What Are Those podcast. Follow me, MSR_Adam, MSR_Adam, for this show, for my TikToks, for my Reels, for my Facebooks, all that crazy stuff. Of course, you can follow this podcast. And do me a favor, somebody told me I need to do this, so I'm going to do it. Subscribe to this podcast on YouTube and on all podcasting platforms, and go ahead and comment on the videos. It helps with the algorithm, helps get the podcast seen and heard. All right. Thank you so much. Remember to mind your mental health. I say it every week. Mind your mental health. Mind your physical health. And ladies and gentlemen, please continue. And always remember to
be great.
I'm up out of here. Peace.